Hey people! Today I'm going to be talking about the structure of my research, specifically the pattern I choose to order the stories. It's of paramount importance because it forms the base of comparison between cultures and accounts of various mythologies. As you may know, the topic I explore in depth concerns supernatural human origins according to the ancient narration and its relation to the modern-day phenomenon we now call visitors from space, ET. The historical narrative involves the particular case of miraculous or virgin birth, which occurred myriad of times in the legendary elder days and which is definitely not exclusive for the Christ. The other aspect generally addresses all mythologies that claim a divine ancestry from the sky or heaven and an explicit mention of arrival to Earth, one way or another. Now it's time to delve into the matter in detail. Based on the previous, I set up the following categories. Anyway, keep in mind that certain accounts may fit into more than one category, so this stands as an attempt to try to organize all the known historical instances of the arrival scenario. The first big group concerns various kinds of objects that enclose, hold, or transport babies and children, or in some cases, angelic visitors. One might even call them crafts for this reason. After the appearance of these vehicles, either from heaven or in a mysterious unknown way, they break open and the beings are released. These heaven-sent beings are universally described as extraordinary youngsters who struggle to fit in, but thanks to their special nature and wit, they quickly become heroes or rulers who pave the way for new, better societies and rules. They spread knowledge and are often watched over and assisted by higher entities. Egg mythology. One of the most iconic class of such objects are eggs. These eggs, however, are extraordinary in nature. They are mostly huge and radiant, and reference is made to their unusual brilliant colors. It's important to stress, though, that these crafts are not equivalent to the word egg mythology. While the latter is just as important, it refers to the envisioned shape of the universe and less a physical craft of a kind. Nonetheless, the two have certain parallels, but that is a subject for later. Egg craft mythology is widespread around the world. We find the best examples in the Far East, but other continents boast it just as much. Gourd mythology. The gourd or calabash also features prominently in Eastern traditions, and in some cases it is related to the egg. Besides that, some important Native American creation stories are founded on gourds as well. Fruit mythology. In this group we find fruits like peach, berries, almond, nut, coconut, melon, lemon, or lucuma. The keyword here is the more or less rounded shape, hence the connection to egg and gourd. In some cases, elongated fruits like banana pop up too, especially in the sense that they mirror a heavenly boat. Fruit mythology is global and is associated with fertility. Barren women, when alone in the nature, often find themselves approached by berries, so to speak, that causes them to conceive. Stone mythology. This class was divided into three distinct sections, which all have their characteristics. Gemstone. Precious stones are a marked class of Central and South American mythologies. As the name implies, the youngsters arise from shiny, sparkling jewels that often magically appear out of nowhere and are regarded as sacred artifacts. Stone and rock. They are portrayed in a fashion similar to gemstones, but more commonly found in world mythology owing to their general presence. Much is said about them, even that there existed heavenly rock boats piloted by gods who spied Earth from their majestic ships in the ages past. Stone and rock mythology is truly worldwide and appears in more remote places like Oceania too. Cave and hole. The story of emergence from a cave or hole is once again quite prominent in the Americas. Such stories focus on hopping from one world to another through what may be described as a natural tunnel. In some instances, entire nations emerge from below the earth, or, according to a certain interpretation, a world beyond ours in the cosmos, so to say. Shell and pearl mythology. Beings who burst forth from a shell, primarily that of a clam, but occasionally turtle shell as well, is yet another globally present narrative. Along with pearls, they are sometimes described as giant, glistening objects that not just sired humans, but some even acted as floating guiders to important places. Casket mythology, or holder and container mythology. Another class that encompasses three subdivisions: chest and box. Some accounts tell of infants placed within a sealed chest of sorts, like a coffer that holds valuable items. It sometimes acts like an incubator, so to speak, and is well sealed and guarded. Stories of this type come mostly from Eurasia. Pot, jar, and bowl. Accounts of rounded holders appear in several records around the world as far as Oceania. Some even mention countless such objects used for incubating many infants at once. It may or may not be sealed on top. Dish, disc, and pole. This section covers any craft that is elongated in shape like a disc or long and thin like a pillar. It's the typical saucer design that we usually associate with otherworldly visitations today, but accounts from the past make mention of it as well. Bowl mythology, or bowls of substance mythology. This standalone class refers to any bowl-shaped object that otherwise doesn't fit in the previous classes. The name bowls of substance implies rounded objects of unusual matter like a glowing ball of feather, or even mythologies that recall deities born from fallen testicles, known from Greek and Near Eastern mythologies. The second group concerns various metaphors for the means of travel, structures that act as tunnels between heaven and earth, slender plant and animal mythology. Credit goes to author Wayne Herschel for being the first to suggest that all the slender objects stood for conduits that travel by, inspired by nature. The key class of this group is about objects like a tube that reaches the sky or may be suspended in the sky. It has the following four sections. Hollow bamboo or reed. These two cylinder-shaped plants usually stand as firm portals between the worlds. Sometimes even a multitude of people are emerging from the stalk. The remark that it is hollow is important because it stresses that it's a pipe of sorts that people may enter. The distribution of such myths is nearly global. Sky-high tendril and tree. The reference to a mythical word tree is universal among ancient peoples. It is perhaps the most ancient of all accounts of a conduit that links the worlds scattered around the cosmos. In many folktales, however, a variant of this giant plant appears locally on Earth, as if it were a lesser branch of the great tree. These usually take the form of a large vine, creeper, or tendril reaching heavens. One just has to think of Jack and the Beanstalk, a tale that is said to date back beyond 5,000 years. Snake and dragon. Perhaps one of the most prevalent of mythologies, the claim of descent from a serpent or dragon is found in numerous cultures, including some of the most isolated peoples as well. Be it Mayan, Egyptian, or Chinese gods, ancient artists always preferred to portray them emerging from serpentine beasts that traverse great distances. Some deities even have a serpent's tail in place of their legs, as if the moment of emergence was frozen in time in art. A special class of beings, mermaids and mermen, belong to this category too. Rope, chain, tube, and ladder. Similar to the previous examples, other descriptions of a heavenly link are widespread. There are accounts of sky ropes or chains used to descend by to earth, as well as mention of celestial ladders like the account of Jacob's ladder told in the Bible. Flower mythology is the second greater class within the group of slender plants, but this one focuses exclusively on flowers, which is just as characteristic in mythology as tall plants are. Lotus. The beautiful lotus is especially well known in African and Asian mythologies. Besides the serpent, is the favored magical conduit of Egyptian, Indian, and Far Eastern deities who are often seated on a radiant lotus flower. Other flowers. Aside from the lotus, various other flowers appear in the tales, and they also act as portals. Among the many, calla lilies or lilies are notable for their cone-shaped flowers that recall conduits. Mayans, for example, have sculptures of visitos emerging from such flowers, complemented by star motifs on the petals. Now it's time for some new classes about extraordinary accounts of birth under strange circumstances. Magical substances mythology, or swallowed contacted substances mythology. This class involves stories where the individual consumes a magical potion or substance, often given by supernatural forces. The material may be organic or inorganic. As usual, the person soon conceives and gives birth to an important figure in legends. Star Visitor mythology, or Personal Visitor mythology. This class is one of the most exciting in terms of virgin conception, so to say, because in these accounts the deity pays a direct or personal visit to the chosen person. Direct meeting. This group covers the classical visitation scenario, something that today we would identify with encounters of the third kind in ufology. In a typical ancient case, a lady is visited in her house while walking in the forest or some other remote place when she is on her own. Beam of light or breath of wind mythology. The second group in this class is yet another frequent type. Although this time the supernatural visitor is not there in person, it still is present, usually in the form of a beam of light that is even capable of chasing the chosen one. This mythology is quite prevalent and occurs worldwide. Children on their own mythology. This class details cases for youngsters or infants who magically come to be on their own, meaning there is no apparent mother or father, their origin is not explained, found alone. As the title implies, this group is about youngsters who literally appear out of nowhere, be it at the side of the chosen parents, or even on their own, found lying or walking around on the meadow or pasture. They claim to descend from deities or come from unknown lands. Fairy or spirit child. These are peculiar youngsters who often behave in a strange way and whose appearance is surrounded by weird circumstances, including features like pre-birth communication, the transfer of the fetus from one mother to another without apparent intervention, or even the replacement of one's child by an otherworldly youngster. Babies sprung from body parts or by thought belong to this group too. Taken people's mythology. Using other terminology, this class may be called abduction stories of the old kind, and is about ordinary earthly people invited by mysterious beings or deities to their remote dwelling places or even other worlds in the cosmos. The time spent with them varies, but on average it can take years, which the abductee may perceive as being much shorter. Sailors enchanted by beautiful nymphs during their journey is a great example. Cosmic Park and House Mythology. This class goes about accounts that speak of heavenly dwellings, either in the form of a cosmic ship or house as they descend to Earth in the ancient times. Some versions even tell of primeval times when people lived in a heavenly residence before a descent to our world. Arrival and Mass Mythology, or Mass Arrival Mythology. The last class in the row is of great importance, hence I choose to end the line of classes with this one. The stories in this category narrate the grand arrival of humanity from heavens, and they make it plain and clear that mankind is not of this world originally. Accounts of a mass arrival to Earth make up the opening chapter of many of the world's greatest cultures' origin stories. As such, it is found globally, and nearly all prominent civilizations have reference to a colonization of our planet, as we would call it today. ARCHAEO-ASTRONOMICAL aspect. Throughout our coming journey into ancient narratives, you will notice a repeating pattern of star mythology. For reasons explained along the stories, the ancients found constellation Taurus a particularly important region of the sky, especially around the Pleiades star cluster. Hence, countless stories recall a cosmogenesis of mankind in the primordial core or bull of heaven, as well as constellation Orion as a guider to Taurus thanks to its belt stars, as explained by the Hidden Recourse research team. Be on the watch for these details in the coming videos. Keywords Co, Bull, or any bovine, Pleiades, or the 7 stars and Orion. Subscribe and join the journey. Make sure to click the bell button to get notifications.